My name is Paul Salopek, and I'm a writer, a journalist, and a National Geographic explorer. And I'm on a project, a storytelling project around the world that's unfolding on foot called the Out of Eden Walk.
How did you first start of thinking of following the footprints of the Homo sapiens?
I thought, what is the ultimate story of kind of all of us, you know, the journey that we're taking together? And I vaguely knew that, you know, human beings had dispersed out of Africa way back in the Stone Age. And I thought, let me try to combine all these threads of narrative, whether, again, it's environmental stories, political stories, economic stories, war stories. What is a framing that I can use to connect them all in the common human experience? And I thought, let me try a journey story. You know, the journey stories are probably the oldest genre. We've been telling journey stories to each other over campfires for thousands of years. And what is the ultimate journey? It's our shared journey. Our ancestors' shared journey out of Africa across the world.
What was the biggest difficulty up to now?
When our ancestors strolled out of the mother continent way back in the Stone Age, they had certain barriers and obstacles in their way. They had, you know, physical barriers, geographical, like deserts or high mountains of snow, or glaciers, right? My glaciers are political borders, which are imaginary, but they're as impassable as a kilometer of ice, you know, because if I can't get a visa, I have to figure out what to do. One example early in my walk was Iran. I could not get a visa to walk through Iran, so I had to decide, what do I do? I ended up walking north through the Caucasus, right? The other challenge is simply the work. So there's the physical work of moving through landscapes at 5 kilometers an hour, whether it's farmland or a big city or mountains in the wilderness of Afghanistan. That's challenging. But then on top of that, I'm a storyteller, I'm a writer. And so I have to also devote energy to pulling together stories with some regularity. You know, once a week, once every 2 weeks, I post something, a multimedia story, onto the National Geographic website. And in some ways, that's even harder than crossing the Hindu Kush on foot in November through snow that's up to your knees. It's hard to kind of sit in a tent or a guest house or a truck stop at 10 at night and muster the concentration and energy to kind of write a story that will take till 3 in the morning, right? I'm often up writing very late. Whereas my local walking partners, they're snoring away, right? But let me add a caveat at the beginning, because it's a very particular individual answer, which is it's an answer coming from an older guy from a certain ethnicity, with a certain a gender, a man, with a certain passport, right? That has some power to it. I've got some money, so all of these privileges bestow to me a vision of the project and the surprises about it through the prism of my privilege, right? So let me just lay that out there from the beginning, and I try to be aware of this as I write my stories. So having said all that, how relatively easy it's been to walk across the world, right? You think it would be this really very problematic, difficult, scary, dangerous, and it is all of those. You know, I've been held up by gunmen. I've had guns pointed at me. The border of Turkey and Syria during the ISIS upheavals. There's a city called Kobani that was being attacked by ISIS, and hundreds of thousands of people were running away and spilling into Turkey across the border. And local Kurdish militia in Turkey thought I was an ISIS guy, right? I had a donkey, I had a mule carrying cargo, I was walking off of roads, and they thought I was an infiltrator. So they came and said, you know, hands up. I said, okay, sure, absolutely. But taken all together, I'm not sure if it's any more dangerous than had I been a conventional foreign correspondent based in a bureau, say in South Africa, right? Where I could get into a car accident, you know, on a Tuesday morning. Even the gunman became friendly. You know, once connection, the first 30 seconds are really vital. Anything can go anyway, but once you get past it, by the end of that encounter, they're putting their hand on my shoulder and say, "Paul, welcome to Kurdistan. Enjoy yourself. It's beautiful."
Can you tell us a little bit about how it is when you walk?
Yeah. So the idea about the project is it's not a solo journey. It's a collective journey. It's some part of the ancestral trails that I'm walking or rewalking belong to you. They belong to everybody. Some ancestor in your family tree walked a part of this journey. So it's what I love about the idea is that it belongs to everyone. And that means that it's best to walk with people. And so it's a people project. So I always walk with local people. It's taken me a while to think about sort of why I think the methodology of this project is so appealing to me is that I'm walking from story to story. They're all interconnected. And the walk allows me to see these connections because I'm moving slowly enough. And there's kind of a directionality. There's a direction to all these stories. The themes may be different, but they're connected like beads on a string. And I think that's been a powerful force of momentum forward that keeps me intrigued and keeps me interested. How all these stories are linked together. The stories that I'm encountering along the way, mostly about people that will resonate to somebody. If the story's in South Korea, that maybe somebody in Uruguay, or somebody in Canada or here in Georgia will find a connection and say, yeah, that's really not just is it really cool and interesting, but I have some empathy. I have some familiarity with that person's life. And so my philosophy of storytelling, what I tell my readers and when I talk to students or colleagues is to the tip of South America is not really my destination. On a map, it's my destination, but in terms of like coming up with a strategy for survival and even maybe growth in this very difficult century that's ahead of us, is I'm walking to people. So I'm walking from person to person to person to person every single day, and I have to believe that not just biologically, but kind of philosophically, spiritually, culturally, of course, genetically too, we are really connected. It's astonishing. I mean, if you think about it in the larger kind of geological context, you spend enough time with any of these people, whatever their gender is, their culture, their ethnicity, the kind of cosmos that they're carrying inside of their head, we talk about the same things, always. And that's both a point of reassurance about what connects us that leads me to believe that a lot of the polarization that we're encountering today is ginned up by forces that may not have people's best interest at stake in mind, right? Political forces, ideological forces of division find ways to divide people that are largely imaginary. And so I try to think of my slow journalism project, my immersive journalism, as one small possible antidote to that fractiousness, that division, to keep reminding people over and over again that the refugee who's on a ship or the soldier that's on the other side of the front line is like you. Whether you like to hear this or not, it is the empirical truth. It is a fact. He or she is like you. And small bridges, right? Small bridges over and over. They might get burned, they might get blown up, they might get ignored, which is often the case, but you can't stop building these bridges.
Where do you think we're heading?
There's a famous geneticist named Svante Pääbo, who was one of the first to kind of code the full DNA of Neanderthal people, our close cousins. And he was asked by a journalist years ago, sort of, what's the difference between Homo sapiens and Homo neanderthalensis? There's evidence that when Neanderthals hit a beach, they went left or right. They looked at a beach, there's an ocean, I can't go any further, so I'll either turn left and walk on the beach, or I'll turn right. Homo sapiens would come to a beach, and they would do the same thing. They say, okay, well, I can't go any further, I'll turn left or right. But some of us pushed a log into the surf and tried to paddle into the ocean. And we had to. I mean, this is not a conjecture. It's somehow we populated Melanesia, right? You know, the Southeast Asian islands. We somehow got to Australia, and there was no land bridge. And he told the reporter, "That's what makes us different. We're kind of crazy, because imagine how many generations of people paddled into the ocean and never came back." And yet somebody in the next group, out of the 20 or 40, there would be one crazy person. And so where are we going to? We're paddling out into the ocean again, as we always do.
I heard you're coming to Korea soon. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
The plan is to, I have a little bit of China to finish up in Dongbei and Liaoning province. And the plan is to kind of finish those last kilometers sometime early in June, and then land in Incheon sometime around the first week of June. And I'll probably spend about a week in Incheon, just kind of getting my bearings and, getting prepared, and then start walking through Korea. So maybe 2 months through the summer, through June, July, maybe into the beginning of August. The idea is to basically walk from Incheon north to the demilitarized zone, and then south into Seoul, and then eventually make my way to Busan. And then from Busan, take another ship to Japan.
How can we follow your journey when you're in Korea?
Well, a couple ways. I mean, we do have a website that's based on the National Geographic platform, the outofelenwalk.com website, just the words all together, outofelenwalk.com. And the storytelling appears there in almost close to real time, not exactly real time. It probably like a week after I pass through an area, a story will pop up. Unfortunately, right now it's in English, but we are working on getting translations done. We're actually looking into that right now. There's that, and then I'll be doing some public speaking. I'll be doing some talking at universities, maybe doing some media, right? So that hopefully is a way to kind of connect with the walk as well.
We're so excited that you're coming to Korea. I would like to meet you so much. That next time maybe we could meet in person. Thank you so much.